Hello, and welcome to our series, Conversations on Zionism, Reclaiming the Narrative. I'm Russell Robinson, Chief Executive Officer of Jewish National Fund USA. The time has come to be the voice of what Zionism really is. We're exposing the beautiful and diverse facets and facts of Zionism. Join me on this journey, together with Conversations on Zionism, Reclaiming the Narrative. This is Zionism. My guest today is Matthew Nouriel, the Empress, aka Empress Mizrahi, an Iranian, a Jew, and queer. He has a unique perspective on advocating for Israel and our shared values. He spends his day online as an activist for Israel and the gay community, and is the program coordinator for Jemena, an organization devoted to educating and advocating on behalf of Jews from the Middle East and North Africa. Imagine. Please welcome Matthew Nouriel, the Empress. Matthew Nouriel, welcome to ZTV, to our Zionist studio. The Empress Mizrahi. It's going to be an interesting show. I want you to kind of tell us that journey. Young, Jewish, Mizrahi, drag queen, Zionist. It kind of sounds like a lot of people would say in a conflicting world. Give me that journey.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Russell. It's wonderful to join you for this show. The journey is ongoing. It started when I was born, and I'm one of those people that just likes to pay attention to all the signs along the road, if you will. And that is what my journey has brought me to. It's the encompassing of all facets of my identity without trying to suppress one part of myself or the other, which is something that I used to try and do growing up. Which I found that just didn't work out for me. So I leaned into every aspect of who I am, and here I am, a gender non-binary, queer, Iranian, Jewish, staunchly Zionist person.
Well, our distractors and detractors from us talk that you cannot be all that. That's not what the Zionist world does. That we're about apartheid. We don't have that kind of community within that. Tell us why those, here you are. How have you found those facts to be?
Well, firstly, I don't appreciate it when people say that because they're completely erasing me and people like me. Very many of us do exist within Israel and outside of Israel. And I would say to people that say that people like myself can't exist or do not exist, that they clearly don't know what they're talking about, because I exist, I'm here. So I don't know what else to say to them other than just showing up, which pisses a lot of them off a lot of the time. But it is what it is. I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, so.
So I'm gonna kind of take different parts of it and decipher it for our audience. Let's talk about Mizrahi. One of the things that people talk about in the anti-Jewish and anti-Zionist movement is that we're brownwashing. That the Zionists took away Mimuna. The Passover after Passover feast. That the Mizrahi are just a small part of who the Jewish people, and we utilize it just to wave the flag. And you have always been an outspoken person about the Mizrahi community and the lack of knowledge about who the Mizrahi community is.
Right. Well, first of all, there's a lot to touch on there. First of all, this idea that the Zionists have stolen Mimuna and tokenized it for whatever nefarious reason that people have come up with is completely ignorant and just not true. Anybody who's been to Israel will see, firstly, upwards of 55% of the Jewish population of Israel are Mizrahi themselves. That's why Mimuna is such a big deal in Israel. a large portion of that Mizrahi population is from Morocco and from North Africa. So that's why it's a part of the Israeli culture, if you will, to the point that it's become like almost a national holiday. Like you can request that day off. There's nothing brown washy about that, much like there's nothing pink washy about me. Like you can't take the fact that people exist within their culture and within their heritage within Israel and then say that it's some nefarious plot from the government to pink wash or brown wash or Mizrahi wash or whatever kind of washing. I hear now that the environment, because of the strides in environment and the environmental field in Israel, people are calling it greenwashing. It's just not true. I mean, it's really actually laughable and ridiculous because in saying those things, what they're actually doing what they say they stand against, which is erasing people's identities.
Now, you talking in your organization has been out there educating people in the Jewish community, but outside the Jewish community about the Mizrahi community. As you talked about, over 50% of Jews that are in Israel today have Mizrahi background. And, you know, the movement, the Zionist movement in 58, was a Mizrahi woman from the Ottoman Empire who established a Jewish community in Palestine at the time. And so the Mizrahi community has been part of the whole Zionist movement for years and years and years. And your organization has been one of those that has been telling that story. Why did you start the organization, and what is the audience that you're looking to get out the information to?
Right. Well, first of all, I didn't start the organization. The organization that I work for is called JMENA, which stands for Jews Indigenous to the Middle East and North Africa. And it started about 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago after 9/11 happened, which subsequently around that same time was when we started hearing this, or not the first time we started hearing, but what started gaining traction was this idea that Jews are white colonialists and that Israel is a colonial entity, that this whole idea kind of really blew up around that time. So what had happened was a few members of the Mizrahi community who lived here stateside decided that it was time to kind of mobilize and speak up against it. And that's why the organization started. And in those 20 years now, it's blossomed into several different outposts that we have. We have advocacy on the level of dealing with the UN and trying to get our message out there. We have everything from social media to community outreach. It's an all-encompassing sort of go-to organization for Mizrahi Sephardic education and knowledge.
Well, that's terrific. I think, again, it's even in the Jewish community, it's not well known enough. And I think the story about how many Jews came in the 1950s who left, you know, I think it was estimated was about 900,000 Jews who immigrated to Israel in the 1950s from the Mizrahi background and had left behind $300+ million of homes and businesses. And people don't know those stories. And so I think it's so important to make sure that we understand that we're not just one color or one people.
No, we're not. I mean, our diaspora story, our diaspora experiences have created a multitude of races, if you will, or colors or diversity, whatever you want to call it. The idea that Jews are purely European or Ashkenazi, first of all, is inaccurate because Jews in Europe throughout history were never considered European. And secondly, it's simply not true. Like you said, up to 900,000, close to 1 million Jews from the Middle East and North Africa were either fled or were forcibly kicked out. I mean, you want to talk about ethnic cleansing. There is not one single Jew left in Libya today, not one. And the heart of Libyan Jewish life in Tripoli was a synagogue, which is now being converted into an Islamic center. So you want to talk about ethnic cleansing, or you want to talk about apartheid, that's a prime example of it right there. And that's not an uncommon story within Mizrahi history or within the story of Jews from the Middle East and North Africa.
Now I want to package about you. You're young, and there's a lot of
That
people
young,
who.
but thank you.
But there's a lot of people who say, you know, the young Jewish community isn't standing up, it's not doing enough. And I'm going to package that with who you are. As somebody who is a drag queen, who has your own, you know, you make your livelihood based upon internet and postings and work. And you took on being a pro-Israel advocate, which was a risky because it's not like you were in the real estate business and you became pro-Israel. Everything is in relative terms, but this was who you are. You're out there, and yet you stood up and said, "I'm a young Jew Zionist." So, give us that leadership journey and that thought process, and how and why and what difficulties have you faced?
I think many young Jews who work in the space of Israel advocacy online, I think for a lot of us, certainly myself, a big wake-up call was May of 2021, when the conflict happened between Hamas and Israel. I think those of us who worked in online spaces and in virtual spaces saw the onslaught of anti-Semitism that took place globally, and a huge part of that was happening on social media. And posting something, and I thought very benignly posted something that was just kind of expressing my thoughts, which was, you know, it was something along the lines of you can be a Zionist, you can be pro-Israel and also believe that Palestinians have a right to self-determination as well. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And the backlash that I received just from saying something that I thought was really benign and really something that most people with a logical sense of whatever would get behind, which is this idea of coexistence and peace. But I was really shocked to see that there was so much backlash for that. And it kind of was a wake-up call. I mean, it was a huge wake-up call. And I felt like, well, if I'm gonna speak about this, then let me learn as much as I can about it and speak about it from the heart and keep saying what needs to be said, because the problem was that kind of a backlash was very one-sided and most of it was based on inaccuracies. So I felt like it was kind of my duty to say something and to speak up. And I felt like there was definitely a space missing in that. There weren't that many queer voices, certainly not people as queer as myself, as you mentioned, who do drag, who were speaking about it. So I just thought, if I feel the way that I feel and that expressing the way that I feel creates this kind of a backlash, surely there must be other people who feel the same way. So let me work on this and let me build a sense of community and let people know that maybe people who are as queer as I am, that they don't have to choose one side over the other. So yeah, I hope that made sense. But yeah,
it does make sense. But I want to really even go on it, because there is a decision that, and I'm saying this, Matthew, because there's so many people that I talk to about leadership. And leadership is the loneliest position in the world. It's the potential, you got to climb a ladder and then you're going to be knocked off. You're going to have to climb back on. It's a risk. And why do most people sit on the sidelines is they don't do what you did. And in that you did, you're doing it in a space that was also part of your livelihood. So tell us, when you talked to us about that first time and how it felt, then you have to take that breath and really step forward. How has that been?
I mean, it's been challenging at times, but honestly, it's been great, because for me, though it's been challenging, being able to connect with so many people on things that mean a lot to me, like, so you have no idea how many people reach out and basically say like, wow, that's how I feel, and I never felt like I had the space for it, which is even if it's just 2 people out of 12,000, like, that means so much to me, and that is so important to me that's what kind of keeps me going. And my whole thing is like, it's about the truth. It's about telling my truth, and if it's my truth, there's other people that have that same truth. And I feel like people like myself deserve to be heard and deserve to be recognized. And we have our place within Judaism and within Zionism just as much as anybody, and we should never shy away from it. So, yeah.
Well, no, and again, that's why I wanted to unpackage that, because, you know, you are an inspiration, because there are people that I think want to take that step, but from all different communities. It doesn't have to be somebody who's a drag queen community or not. It's just showing that there is young people, there's people, whatever the age, and that they stand up and they're willing to talk about the beauty and the great experience of Zionism and how it is important.
I'm Zoe, and I'm from Dream Israel, an incredible teen travel initiative at Jewish National Fund USA. Let me tell you what Dream Israel is. Through this initiative, any high school student can receive a grant of up to $7,500 to put towards their study abroad program in Israel with one of Jewish National Fund USA's academic partners. How do you earn this grant? All you need to do is fundraise for a Jewish National Fund USA philanthropic project in Israel.
Without this Dream Israel grant, I would not be able to be here in Israel.
Thank you, Dream Israel.
Thank you, Dream Israel.
Thank you, Dream Israel, for making my dreams come true.
Take the trip of your dreams with Dream Israel and Jewish National Fund USA.
What do you, if you're defining Zionism, how do you define it for yourself and for others?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question, because I feel like a lot of anti-Zionists have taken it upon themselves to redefine what Zionism is. So when people ask me, because people do ask, which is always a little surprising to me, like, well, how are you defining Zionism? I'm like, well, I'm defining it by its definition, which simply is the Jewish right to return to our ancestral homeland and have sovereignty in it. That's all it means. And yeah, of course, there's other branches of it. There's religious Zionism and liberal Zionism and conservative Zionism, whatever. But it all comes down to the same thing, which is the right of return for Jewish people to have sovereignty in our own ancestral homeland. So that's how I define it.
And you know, I talk to so many different people as well, and when they say, well, can you be anti-Zionist and be, but I'm not anti-Jewish? And I said, listen, you know, if you're anti-Zionist, you're anti-Jewish, and if you're anti-Jewish, you're anti-Zionist. What's your feeling?
My feeling is that the root cause of anti-Zionism is based in anti-Semitism. If there was no such a thing as anti-Semitism in the Middle East specifically, there would be no anti-Zionism. It's not like there was any independent state there before. It was there were so many different imperial powers that took control of the land. It was only when Jews came to return that it became as big a deal as it did. And why? Because of anti-Semitism. So that's my first response to that. There would be no such a thing as anti-Zionism if anti-Semitism didn't exist. So when you're an anti-Zionist, you are upholding ages-old anti-Semitic beliefs. That's first of all. Second of all, when you say you're anti-Zionist but not anti-Jewish, what I hear is you're saying I'm accepting and loving of Jews as long as they know their place and stay in their place and do as they're told and act like the good Jew, which I have a huge problem with, because, again, that is, by definition, anti-Semitic. And thirdly, the idea that Jews don't have the right to return to our own land, from which we have been kicked out of time and time again throughout history, is anti-Semitic. So I don't understand how anyone would think that the term anti-Zionism or the ideal of anti-Zionism isn't anti-Semitic. It is very anti-Semitic.
So I'm going to help you lead us give us some pathways that you think that in the organized Jewish community, outside the organized Jewish community, what should we be doing? We have young people, teenagers and others going to college and you know, I never blame them for whatever they don't know, because we should be teaching as well. So what are some pathways that we're not doing that we should be doing in our Jewish community?
I think it's really important to listen to young people and listen to the concerns of young people and young Jews and non-Jews alike. I think there's a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to Zionism in Israel within American Jewish spaces as well as without. So I think it's really important to really pay attention to the questions that people are asking, and even more so really to learn how to tune into if people are asking them out of maliciousness, because especially with this topic, there's two kinds of question asking. There's people that are asking you a question which don't want the answer. They think they already have the answer and they're challenging you. And then there's people who are genuinely asking. And I think we're so used to being defensive about it, because for obvious reasons, that the minute somebody asks a question, we get defensive. And I think it's important to learn to really listen to the question that's being asked, and more so listen to why it's being asked and answer accordingly. And if we could tune into that, I think it would be really beneficial for us. So when somebody is asking a question, really pay attention. Do they really want to know? And if they really want to know, answer them and be nice about it, because you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. So let's be sweet.
So that's why I need you as part of our conversation. It's something that I am, the Jewish National Fund, constantly, that young people, first off, I try to tell people, right or wrong, they are the future. So you might as well find out where they're at. But second is that conversation. There's the 20% of the people that hate us, the 20% of the people that love us, the 20%. I don't believe in talking to the 20% who hate us, because, and I see so many like getting their voices up because they want to, you know, make sure they yell back at the 20% who hate us, and they're losing that middle group who is questioning and wants a conversation, and we have to get there. And that's why one of the biggest projects that we're working on, and we need you, Matthew, with it, is we're building a World Zionist Village in Israel. Forget the buildings. The first phrase is to start a new conversation about shared values and common destiny, not about, you know, right, left, or religious, secular, or Israel diaspora. Let's start talking about who we are and what we're all looking for, and then start answering the questions. So I need you as part of that conversation, and to continue it and to lead us. And I think that your work about social media and the platforms, you're an influencer. And so if you're going to talk to other influencers who take that risk of being an influencer and then being a Zionist advocate, tell us what you would say to them.
You know, I mean, I didn't gain traction on social media until I started advocating. So there's the difference with me. I know that there are social media personalities who make their living off of it, who have 100,000 followers because they are fashion influencers or food influencers, and they risk a lot to make a stand for Israel. But I really believe that at the core, a person's honesty is what shines through on social media more so than anything else. Like, your realness on social media is what's going to attract your true audience. Now, that audience might be a little bit less than the person that has followers on Instagram, but if it's more meaningful, it's more important, in my view. So I would say, you know, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do, but I will say this, to take a stance for something which is so important. I mean, we're fighting for we're fighting for our lives when it comes to Israel. That's our homeland, and I don't think we should ever even entertain the idea of giving it up again. We've given it up too many times throughout history. We're there now, and we're going to fight for it, and we're going to keep fighting for it. So if that's something that's important to you and you have a platform, I don't want to speak for anybody else. Again, for me, I felt like it was my duty to say something. And I would encourage influencers who have larger platforms to say something. And there's ways to say it. You know, it doesn't have to be combative, and it doesn't have to be angry or defensive. There's ways to talk about it and to talk about the beauty of it. So I would encourage people to do that. And there are organizations that work solely for that purpose. So if anybody's watching this and they want to know how to do it, hit me up. I'll connect you.
I was just going to say that, first off, I want to thank you. You don't have to tell anybody what to do. You're going to lead them. And leadership is the most important part. And I want to thank you for being a leader in our Jewish community. I want to be a leader as a human being. I want to thank you for really guiding the honesty, the authenticity of who we are, the Zionist movement, Mizrahi, the Jewish people, and for people that want to feel that authenticity and that hear that honesty, absolutely. We're going to put your handle up and all your information and make sure that they're talking to the Empress Mizrahi and Matthew Nouriel. You are a real special human being. Thank you for being on ZTV and the Zionist Studios.
Thank you so much, Russell. It takes one to know one, so thank you.
To watch this and all of our past episodes, go to ZTV, our Zionism Studios YouTube page, and subscribe to get notifications.